Good evening, all of y'all. Welcome. Okay, guys, I think we should at least start. Let me start introducing what the session is going to be about. Our eminent speaker that we have. Uh, Good evening, everyone, and welcome to an interesting and a very informative session on Budget 22 analysis. It's been a very interesting week for all of us because, firstly, many of y'all who are here, y'all got an opportunity to play the finance minister, which I'm sure with a team of three, it has been a very interesting and a very enhancing experience where you figured out, what gets into the economy, what are the things y'all need to understand, and you presented your dream project. And we have acknowledged and accepted all your interesting entries that we have got. But today, let's understand the key highlights of Budget 2022. Budget 22 was phenomenal in a way, it was a game changer because a lot of new things which has never been introduced in India has been introduced for the first time. We will cover different topics from infrastructure, finance, agriculture, transport, of course, the deficit expenditures, taxations, and many in sections that is going to help you all to understand what a budget 22 is all about. Yes. Today, we will also be covering the three key points where you have played the finance minister. That was in Budget Guru, where we talked about you gave us your thoughts on agriculture, the startups, and Atmanirbhar Bharat. So without any further, let me introduce today we have with us Mr. Vikram Pandey. Vikram, very good evening and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
for having me here today, and we'll
Yes.
start very soon. Yeah.
Yeah. And Vikram, just to let you know, Vikram, he is a director of fintech as SP Jain School of Global Management. Little bit about Vikram. He is a director where he has designed Asia's first interactive classroom-led fintech program featuring blockchain, API banking, AI, ML, and IoT labs. This is very interesting project of Vikram. He has authored several white papers and articles on fintech domain. He has extensive experience in banking, finance services, fintech consultancy, and training domain. He is founder and director of Associate of Emerging Technologies, a not-for-profit ecosystem interactive. He is also associated as a mentor with various fintech startups, fintech first funds across the globe. He is fintech ambassador for Maharashtra government Uday Fin platform. He is also heading research arm of fintech VC fund Varanyam. He has been a successful banker for more than a decade, where he has made key contribution in finance and investor strategy, business intelligence, balance sheet management, and business development and technology solution. So today we have a very prominent person, Vikram, I mean, if I may say so, who comes with a decade plus experience in finance, banking, and now into fintech. Welcome, Vikram. And today the session is all open to you for our students who have specially come with the objective of understanding and dissecting budget, which gives them a better simplified version of the budget, which will be the key takeaways on the budget and different structures that we spoke about. So welcome, Vikram, and over to you.
Thanks. Let's start. So, what we are going to do, I will set up the agenda very quickly. Within that, we will start with dissecting the budget. We'll look at certain areas which are much more difficult to understand and try to summarize it in a way so that people can digest. Second thing, what we'll do, we'll look at some of the fine print and understand that, okay, what goes between the line, and we can figure out what may happen. And finally, we will see some predictions about what may happen in future. And with that, we will try to summarize everything. I would like to make sure that this is interactive in nature. So if you have anything or any questions, you can put that in the chat window, and I will be more than happy to address those.
I just, if I can say, in a question answer session, that will help us to focus on that. So all of y'all, without further ado, anything that you have in mind, any question whatsoever in question answer box. And also just to, at the end, I was about to say, but the winners of the Budget Guru 2022 will be announced on 5th. Yes, Vikram. Yeah.
Great, thanks. So let's start. So I will share my screen and I will start with the basic discussion around how everything comes together in this budget, right? So very quickly, I will start my presentation. Okay. So overall, when we look at some of the initiatives, while we are going to discuss more interesting stuff around cryptocurrency, virtual currency, and different form of NFTs later, we will try to first look at some of the dry stuff, which is around finance, how deficits is of course going to get managed in India, and what was the divestment plan that they had and where they are today. So if you look at the budget which was presented, that budget was in a way without any shocks, because as you know, normally what happens, and specifically in India, whenever you have election cycle which is due in the next year, so whenever there is election cycle, you have people presenting populist budget, and that is where the concern was. If the populist budget was presented, then India may face some issues on the deficit and few more issues on the long term side. Fortunately enough, no tax rates were changed. Overall, it was much more balanced, and it was around incremental enhancement of key focus that they had. Right, so on the some of the new infrastructure side, medical side, as well as on the agri side. So we'll look at all these things one by one. But on the divestment side, this is the core. One of the core principles that they have decided, that they are going to divest more and more by making sure that more efficiency can be brought in the public sector. So if you understand what is the divestment really, it is nothing but making sure that, okay, whatever state government has, you are trying to go ahead and make sure that it is sold to the private player, which can then buy. And with that partnership, let's say, you can then make sure the efficiency is unlocked. Privatization is one thing, divestment is another, by the way. So it is not like somebody is going to take over, but because of the investment opportunity which comes along with the divestment, you are able to further unlock capital that is stuck in most of these public sector unit, and that was the main objective behind divestment. Now, if you look at the numbers which are there, right? So in FY21, the estimate was much higher, but revised estimate was only 32,000 crore, and of course that number is yet to come out in terms of the actual one. But from what I know in the industry, uh, it will be around 40,000 crore. That's what people are expecting. But I will not be surprised if it is, of course, lower than that, because given that we have seen shortfall almost most of the years, apart from couple of years, right? So that is the reason. And second thing, because of COVID, etc., government was not even functioning in some of the areas. So that is the reason it is slow. But definitely the markets are all-time high. Given that markets are all-time high, you can have a good opportunity to divest during such markets. So that being said, I am of the opinion that this is the right move. And we need to also understand why you need to have divestment as a policy, given that you can then put that unlocked capital into more productive use cases and future growth. So you can fuel the growth further by deploying that capital, unlocking that capital, and deploying that in a productive manner. So that is one. So some of the numbers that we will see further on the taxation side was the fiscal arithmetic. So expenditure with a real growth of over 21%. And why this is very significant, I will tell you, right? Because normally when you look at the growth during the normal growth time, which is with economy growing, everyone, of course, import export is all time high also, then you can really grow 20-21% on capital expenditure very easily. But when you have capital expenditure, specifically during sluggish time like COVID, and then you want to pick up, you have a lower base effect. But at the same point in time, because it was earlier all-time high, you are going to have some difficulty in terms of attracting new investment in capital expenditure. So that is the reason this is very optimistic and very good also at the same point in time. And because your revenue expenditure growth is negative, understand this differently, right? So they already have spent a lot of the expenditure during COVID time. That is the reason, because of that base effect, this is going to be negative. So it was expected, but in my opinion, again, it was expected to be around negative 10%. Instead of that, it is negative 6.5%, implying that government is still ready to put more impetus on the overall growth in India. And this expenditure, of course, gets translated into multiple different opportunities all over the economy. So that is one thing. And whenever we are talking about revenue receipts, which they are going to receive, they are projecting 10% increase in that. This is because of COVID, again, the base effect mainly. And however, from what I understand, this will be even better, even there is a more than 10% if the economy gets opened completely and people, let's say, start traveling more and more and people go to restaurants more and more. These numbers can really get better. Overall, we'll focus on the income tax part as well. When you look at corporate tax, income tax, that will recover again from where it was earlier to where it went to during the COVID time. And let me give you some numbers on that. During COVID time, the worst possible scenario that we have seen, right, was in 2021 in the March quarter, when lockdown was there completely. It was not functioning at all. And during that time, again, certain uh, reduction in projections were done. And now they are expecting that everything will get reversed and the growth will start. And even the import export, based on that, the customs are expected to go up. Now let's look at the future. What may really happen because of unlocking, and we need to look at certain sectors specifically. So travel and tourism and hospitality industry, restaurant industry, that is where people will be spending more incremental amount vis-a-vis the last year. Given this opportunity, and you need to also understand that in India, given the largest country in terms of vaccination drive, we need to have even booster shots now. If the Omicron variant and few more variant come, then we need to have booster shots, etc. So those expenditures included, overall, I personally believe the cost or revenue expenditure may really go up. And overall projections that we have may overshoot a bit because of this, all this different initiatives that they will need to do. But on the same side, if the economy is opening because of all this vaccination and the people going for revenge tourism, etc., people normally overspend certain things. If you look at the Diwali time, this Diwali was the largest Diwali in terms of spend, right? Festive spending. And because of that, overall festive spending in India, if you look at, was all-time high in last 10 years. And growth-wise also, it allowed retailers and e-commerce player to really boost their sales. Now, given this background, I believe personally next year, the revenue also will shoot up a bit and expenditure also will shoot up a bit. But if you have more variants which are more deadlier in nature, unlike Omicron, which is milder, you may see a scenario where economy will be again in trouble. And that is what we need to highlight. So that is one thing which I wanted to specifically bring out. Now, specifically, I will focus on this 1.5 lakh crore shifted from off-balance sheet to food subsidy bill. Now, this is during the COVID, as you know, this food subsidy was the major part which was done. And identifying again in the next year, you can understand that, of course, this will continue. And because of that, GDP will have some impact because of that. And another point that I would like to highlight before we go to some real world use cases and scenarios in virtual digital currency, I will end this financial discussion around telling you one more thing, that gross government borrowing is budgeted to be at 12.1 lakh crore. And this is the reduction that I have seen, which was earlier at 12.8 lakh crore, which was estimated, right? So this is something good. And the net borrowing, which you can see, is going to be much lower, again by 1 lakh crore. And this is something because of the increased revenue. I will highlight specifically, this is mainly because of the increased revenue that they are budgeting. So while again, this may or may not happen, but this is going to be very interesting to see. And given that it will be election year, the expenditure, etc., will be higher on that account from the political party side, but on the government side, the infra expenditure on managing entire thing will be much more on that. So let's continue with the next point. On the infrastructure side, so I think let's take few questions which somebody have asked before we go to infra. Why there is no change tax slab? Any special reason for that? Very good question, Harshit.
Yeah.
Let me highlight that, because what happens, I personally believe that if you keep on changing tax slab every year, then you can't plan. I personally believe you can't plan in advance, and you should have a stable tax regime. That is very critical for a country like India. If you can't have stable tax regime, if you keep on tinkering with tax rate every year, you can't plan. As a customer, as an individual, as a corporate, you can't plan anything. And because of that, I'm more than happy to have stable tax regime rather than having some change. That being said, when you also look at certain more nuances in this breakup of this taxation, right? So surcharge, which was earlier some different rates were charged. Now surcharge on capital gain tax is kept at 15%. Sometimes by just doing subtle changes, you can really bring good outcomes. In this scenario, because of this 15% capital gain surcharge, I'm saying not the tax, but surcharge on capital gain tax, because of this private investment space where private limited companies, stocks, etc., they are now going to have much more attractive opportunities, right? Which earlier was not there because of surcharge. Now, of course, you have that benefit coming up. Then there is another question. One doubt, by divestment is not the case. We move
Yeah,
further towards
basically,
capitalism.
yeah,
Okay,
yes.
correct. No, so you are right. But what happens? Let's understand when it is really bad and where it is really good. Let's say you know about government's Navratna and those things, right? So you have very good cash cows for government, and those cash cows are already doing very good, right? Now there are two things. One thing is privatization, as I mentioned. That is where if you don't have the cultural match, if the culture match is not there, and if somebody is just divesting and privatizing, these two are again different terms. But let's say privatizing, then it will be a trouble for these this Navratna. But if you are trying to look at certain different ventures that governments are doing, and those which are really not part of Navratna, and you are trying to divest that, that is really good. But in order to do that, you need to make this deal slightly attractive by even divesting some part of this Navratna. Because if you just divest something which is not interesting, people will not look at everything, right? So you need to make the deal sweeter by divesting part of your Navratna also. Definitely capitalism, of course, will come into the picture, but I personally believe it is better than having inefficiencies, and because of that having more losses. You need to have fiscal prudence. So there is a difference between having without any rhyme or reason you are doing something, but if you think carefully and then you plan it accordingly, then that really works for you. So this kind of divestment, by having a prudence fiscal decision making, prudent, why I'm saying prudent, because you need to think about benefits and cost, and if you
Right.
are weighing them out, then it is really good.
Yeah. And one more question, facing inflation and corona issue, what he says, a situation that we are in, and
Right.
tax rates are same.
So I will tell you the reason also, right? Understand one thing.
Yeah, because
So
we are in
let's,
difficult
yeah,
times. So yes.
correct, correct. So in difficult time, targeted benefit works better than wholesale benefits. In a simpler term, right? Let's say if you are facing some injury in your arm, if I put something on that side, it will have better impact than I spray entire room with some medicine. Okay. So that is the reason that whenever there is some calamity, or let's say in this case, you have natural disaster in a way, where you look at the cause, root cause, you try to have a targeted benefit. And when the targeted benefit is given, it is much more effective than reducing tax rate across entire board, right? You will not have that impact of having a tax rate reduction In fact, it will have opposite effect because of the revenue going down, etc. You give targeted benefit that is required. So I will give you one example, right? Here, if you have received any amount from your employer or from someone for your COVID related medical reimbursement or expenditure, that is not taxed. So that is a targeted advantage. Right? So that kind of advantage, if you give, then it is going to serve that purpose. Could this be better? Of course, definitely there can be more benefits which could have been given to separate targeted audiences. But in whatever they have done with limited resources that they had, it is good. Another thing, what else could have been done? So I will give you one example, right? Whenever you look at chapter 6 benefits, which is under section 80 and all those sections which you have, right? Whenever you are talking about deductions, then there is another section under section 10, you have exemptions, right? So exemptions and deductions, when you look at these two parts, right? Whenever you want to give any sort of boost to certain segment or area, you can either put that as an exempted expenditure and or you can put something under deduction. They could have done that, but they have not done that specifically because, as I mentioned, revenue side pressure, because their expenditure is still going to go up. If they don't have revenue enough with that, the deficit will further widen. So that is another example why that is not good.
Great. I think for this, we'll take the last question, which is something very basic that every student should know, is that what is fiscal deficit and its explanation. If you could just explain very briefly in a layman's term,
Correct.
what is
So
fiscal deficit?
Yeah, I will in a very simplified terms rather than using any economics terms at all. Let's assume that you are getting pocket money of 100 rupee and you go out and try to spend everything together. But if you don't save anything, and if you don't get expected pocket money from your parents next time, then you will be in trouble. You are assuming every time that you will get pocket money from your parent exactly equal to 100 rupee every day. But it may or may not happen. So you need to save for the rainy day. And if you don't do that, then if you can borrow something and do that, then that is a different stuff. But overall, if you have your income and expenditure, which is having a mismatch, you will end up with fiscal deficit. And to fill that deficit, you need to borrow more and more. You need to do certain things which otherwise will not benefit but harm the economy. Given those things, you need to really be wary of fiscal deficit. Sometimes it is good. It is not that it is always bad. Mainly when the economy is growing, you can always have more spending to have the productive multiplier. Right. So again, just to bring a small economic term, what is a multiplier? So you do certain things, but the output, the impact of that will be multifold. So you spend 1 rupee, the output on the economy because of that might be 10 rupee. And because of that every spend you do, because it is having multiplier effect, it will be beneficial for the economy if deployed in the productive manner. Yeah. On the other hand, if your economy is really, really doing good, then automatically because of that you will have surplus and you need to save that surplus during the rainy day. So those things. And
what is its implications? Basically, Utkarsh wanted to know what is the implication of fiscal deficit.
That's what I wanted to highlight, that in times like COVID, etc., it is good to have fiscal deficit. It is good to have that because it means that government is consciously taking more steps to do more expenditure in productive channels. Let's say agri subsidies and those other subsidies that you know about. Because of that, the deficit will go up. But because of that, you have economy also getting recovered very quickly, which is good. Okay. So during certain times, it is really good, like times like this. But when it is not prudently used, then it is really bad because it will put country into debt trap.
Okay. Absolutely. And to explain, to take it further, is printing more money done to cover deficit, though it leads to inflation?
No, so printing more money is never the solution for anything. Yes. You need to understand and this again will tie back to our cryptocurrency and virtual asset discussion. So I'm just trying to add one point to that. Yes. Let's look at what is a fiat money today, right? Something which we trust. Correct? Something which we trust because government is backing it. RBI is saying that, okay, that it is a promise to pay in a way, right? You look at that word and you will realize that there is a promise to pay. So you trust that word. And because of
Right.
that, everyone knows that this 10 rupee note is going to fetch me value but 10 rupee exactly, because it is the value that's promised to you, right? Now, when you talk about non-fiat, which is cryptocurrency or anything else, right? What gives that value again? Trust. Everybody trusts that, okay, this Bitcoin is going to have this much value, and I'm going to have someone accept it at some value, and that is the value people trade. It is a demand supply thing, and based on that, the value is derived. It is not promised to pay, but it is a again trust system which is giving that value, demand and supply system which is giving that value.
True.
Now,
So
if you
let's.
keep on printing more and more currency, that trust goes down, first of all. Second thing, if you have more supply than the demand, then again, as you know, that value goes down, right? And effectively, you are going to make certain segments very unattractive. So, for example, because of you printing more money, of course, inflation goes up. Because of that, your import will have additional burden. So, if you are import heavy economy, then it is not good for you, right? Because your currency is getting more devaluated every year because of the inflation. And if your currency is getting devaluated, then automatically your import heavy economy will suffer a lot. Just understand that if currency goes down by 10%, your crude bill also goes up. And because of that, suddenly your petrol and diesel prices go up. And because of that, the ripple effect in entire economy is the price inflation because of that. Right? And again, without having real increase in the revenue, if the price increase happens, then economy is bound to doom. And understand, in India or any other country, you will never have equal distribution of wealth. So, which means that even if you print more money, it is not like that it is going to go to everyone equally, right? It is not the case ever.
Yeah.
And it will further compound the issue rather than solving anything. So, there are many and more case studies in different economies that they have tried to do something like this, and it is never going to work unless until you have very robust economy to support certainly, right? If the GDP is growing, if the circulation of money is growing, there are M1, M2, etc. But in interest of keeping this more easier for everyone to understand, let's look at a simple stuff. If somebody is putting more supply than the demand, then the price is going to go down. Similar to that, value of currency will go down. If the supply is more than the demand.
Right. I think we should continue because they are like, I think the questions will, okay, but I think the basic of what you explained this in regards to finance, I think we have covered. So if we could move to the next sector.
Sure.
Yeah.
So definitely we'll move on to the next part
And
on the
request
infra part.
everybody to put in question answers. It will get easier for us to accumulate the right kind of questions and ask, right? Yes, sir.
Definitely. So obviously what I will try to do is that after having covered entire section only, I will go for Q&A so that it at least resolves those doubts, if not more.
Yes. Yes.
Now on the infra side, there are multiple initiatives taken, but if you look at some of the noteworthy initiatives, right? So this national monetization pipeline, and this is going to be launched to monetize public infrastructure of the brownfield. What is the brownfield? So you have two different category. One is called greenfield, which is completely new. Okay. And brownfield is something which is not new as such, but they are trying to expand into some area which is already there, but it is not that developed yet. So greenfield as a term means that you are starting something afresh. There is no legacy, nothing. You are starting something afresh. That is called greenfield. Okay. So when you don't have any legacy and you start, that is greenfield. While brownfield means that you have some legacy, but you want to expand and you want to get certain more things covered. So in that you are doing the brownfield expansion. Now within the brownfield category, this monetization will be created for information flow to the investor to enable certain things. So what are these monetizable assets for which this will be done, right? So you have list of assets which are monetizable, and for that, this entire information flow will be created to have more transparency, greater transparency and disclosure around it. And these are the list of monetizable assets, including NI, toll roads, operational toll road. Then you have, so all this you can just go through rather than me reading it out. It is just the assets which are there owned by government. And as you can see, right, sports stadium and everything. So those things are covered under National Monetization Pipeline. Because of this, what will happen is that we will have better disclosure and transparency around the information flow as well. And most of the stuff which is not in public domain will be in public domain now, to have overall information for investors to understand what should be the right value, right, when you are either divesting or people are investing into your company. So that is one thing. Then this is where specifically this is more important. So I'm trying to put more weight on this. First of all, I assume that you understand what is zero coupon bond. If not, I will very quick simply say that rather than having any interest, it is having 0% in a way interest, but it is pre-discounted to start with. So let's say it will start with 91 and it will end at 100 rupee. So as you keep holding it, the value goes up, and ultimately you can liquidate, or at the end of the tenor, you can get 100 rupees. So that is what the zero coupon bond effectively means. So they are now going to have funding allowed using zero coupon bonds in infra debt fund. Now, because of this, what will happen? Zero coupon bonds can help you with known outcome, and also it will allow you to have standardized trading. There are few advantages, and these are the advantages very quickly. And it is much more tax efficient because of the infra element to it, right? And you have certain benefits in taxation that is already specified. Those you can get, and because of this, this will become attractive investment avenue for most of the investors, even banks. So those are the scenarios that I wanted to cover. In overall infra side, they have put much more weight on the roadways, etc. Given that they want to connect entire India with more roadways and more infra, given again the expenditure that it will require, they have divided this plan across the year, and they are planning to finish everything within that 5-year plan that gets created every time. So that is one thing which I wanted to highlight. There are a couple of participants who are raising hand. Rahul, yes, you can either ask your question or
no, we have not put the voice thing. So what you do,
no
guys, any question, put it in quick question answer, and if you're not understanding the point, just tell me you're not understanding. We can just stop for a bit.
Put that on the chat or Q&A. That will be better.
Yeah, we are active here. So just
Shivangi
put it in,
is what Shivangi is saying, absolutely correct. But Venezuela, it was not only about printing; it was more about the policy also, right? You need to consider fiscal policy also as a critical component of it. Printing money is one thing, but if you don't have prudent fiscal policy, and it includes multiple things, right? There is fiscal policy, then there is a monetary policy. Fiscal policy is decided by budget and how do you plan your expenditure, right? Monetary policy decided by RBI, as you know, right? So you need to have balance between everything. Monetary policy and fiscal policy should talk to each other, and it should complement each other. In Venezuela, it was on disarray, right? It was completely disarray, and because of that, you saw what happened. Anuj, privatization means that somebody who is private entity is holding majority share and taking it over. Divestment is a general term. It may or may not be majority divestment. Okay. So it is very simple stuff. Let's say if I'm holding 100% of the shares, those who are watching Shark Tank will understand that if let's say I'm holding 100%, and if I am giving 10%, in a way it is divestment. Investment in opposite is divestment. So when I'm doing divestment, that is one thing, but privatization will be when the government is holding majority, but now private sector is holding majority. That will be divestment.
We should continue, and sure. We will just bundle all the questions going forward.
Sure.
Right?
No worries.
Great.
Now this is very interesting. This is where I will give a few live examples also. I hope that you guys are aware about India's stake. In India, there is a India stake created around Aadhaar. Aadhaar, I'm sure everyone knows about Aadhaar. I will very quickly show you India's stake and where this entire ecosystem is going, right? In India, because of the India stake and now health stake, we in entire world are having unique government-led infrastructure which allows entire digitization. Okay, so I will give you some background. So in India's tech, what happens? You have multiple different layers because of Aadhaar. which are these layers? You have, because of Aadhaar, you can do cashless transaction using UPI. So there is a cashless layer. Because of Aadhaar and DigiLocker, you can do signing of the document. And because you can do digital signing, you are having presence-less layer and paperless layer. Okay. So these three layers are core layers provided by Aadhaar. Today, if you want to utilize this, you can partner with UDAI, and that UDAI basically is the Aadhaar issuer, and basically you can use this API, which are the data connectors, to get the data from your customer. This is what changed everything in India around fintech, financial technology. Because of India state, cost of doing business reduced tenfold. Earlier, business models which were not viable enough became viable because of India state. Similar to that, budget also has put certain things for health tech. In India, health tech is already live, and each and every citizen can get something called as ABHA. What is ABHA? ABHA is nothing but Ayushman Bharat health account. So I will show it to you. National Health ID. This is the National Health ID website. Now it is called ABHA, as you can see here, Ayushman Bharat health account. So each and every individual will have their health ID. All the health record for that individual will be around this health ID, which means that insurance companies, hospitals, etc., can utilize this data to give you better service, to understand your requirement better, and provide financial solution also much better, lending, insurance, etc. And government can use this now to give you direct benefit transfer and subsidies, basically. Right? So this is already live. Those who may not be aware should go through that definitely. If you don't have your health ID, please get your health ID by asking your parents. And this will really help in future. This is just starting. So whatever is just starting, if you are early adopter, you will get the benefit more, right, than the others. So that is one thing. Along with that, in India, there is a telecom stack also, by the way, for those who are not aware. The telecom stack is also now getting over. So all these three stacks together will drive India's future digital growth. Like as I mentioned, Aadhaar has already created this fintech ecosystem in India because the cost of doing business has gone down drastically. Similar to that, cost of providing insurance, medical services, healthcare services will go down drastically because of the information available. Mainly, you have supernormal profits whenever there is information asymmetry. But because now you have more data available, people can make informed decisions, risk can be identified accurately, the cost will go down. So, as a part of that, coming back to the budget, they have done multiple different things here. They have focused on preventive, curative, and total well-being. Now, within this Ayushman Bharat health account plays a very critical role. Entire life cycle of the customer and the patient in this scenario will be covered under ABHA. And they have increased the outlay by 137% overall, which is very, very good. Because in India, so far, health and well-being was the sector which was not even paid any attention. COVID has shown us that if you don't have right infra in health, then you are going to have implications for that, right? You saw that what happened when the second COVID wave hit everyone. You had hospitals without bed, you had hospital not having oxygen, not having mask, PPE kit. So that entire health infra is required. So definitely this means that pharma stocks, etc., will be going up again. It will continue to go up. Second thing, 35,000 crore more provision for COVID-19 vaccine. Why this is there? As I mentioned, you will require booster shots. In some other countries like US, UAE, etc., they already have 4 to 5 dose total, which means 2 booster doses or 3 booster doses are already given to them. In India, it is not possible to have 4 or 5 booster doses, but given the scenario, at least certain people who are at higher risk, will be given booster doses. That's what I believe. Continuing our journey on MSME and SME segment, and specifically on the startup as well. Right? Now, what happens in this? I will cover these questions. I have taken note of these questions on chat window. I will cover them immediately after this. Now, when we look at MSME and startups specifically, right? In India, during COVID, the biggest sector which got hit was MSME. Believe me, MSME sector is any country's engine which drives the entire economy. Why? Because majority of the employment comes from that segment. When I talk about non-agri, okay, non-agri employment comes from that segment. MSME getting hit because of COVID resulted into certain issues in the supply chain. As you know, certain issues because of unemployment, etc. You have to pay benefits, and also you have certain other issues on the savings and healthcare which you need to take care of suddenly, which increases the burden on society. So given all these things, it was very much expected, and you saw that this as well, that overall budget provided emergency linked credit guarantee scheme, which was already there. They have extended that for 1 year. Similar to that, they have provided 15,700 crore for MSME growth. This will be in form of some such subsidies and growth plans. And overall, if you look at some of the other subsidies which were given earlier, they have extended that by 1 year, which means that whatever plans were there in COVID time is extended by 1 more year. This is what you can see even for startups. It goes hand in hand because most of the MSMEs are startups. So considering this, this budget has given some hope again for recovery of these startups and MSME. And going forward, I personally believe that they should introduce one more advantage, that if you employ more people, you should have more tax subsidies or at least benefits under direct benefit transfer. If you do that, then unemployment rate can further go down because people will need to employ more people in order to get that benefit. And of course, you need to put some safeguards so that they are not taking people on contract and firing them later, right? So you need to accrue that benefit over the period of few years. So those things, from what I know, is under pipeline, and definitely based on the outcome, it will be implemented maybe in next year budget. Now, with this, let's come to the most interesting part also, which is agri, as people say, is everything in India, right? And when you think about it, agri also got impacted because people who normally come to work, they could not. You have in India many people who are migrating during some seasons in city and then again going back to work during COVID time. That entire flow of migrant workers also got impacted. And because of that, there were so many different challenges which were there. And overall, when you look at, they have done very good job with the agri infrastructure part, specifically on the micro irrigation fund, because believe me, in India, groundwater level is going down. Because groundwater level is going down, this micro irrigation facility is normally powered not only by groundwater anymore, but also water saving schemes that people use. Right? There are multiple different ways you can save water, preserve water, conserve water, and those schemes are already live. And because of that, I can tell you there are multiple schemes which I have seen, and because I'm also having a farmland, I have seen that those schemes are really utilized by the farmers nearby who are using it in time of COVID, right? So this specifically, if you look at this micro irrigation fund, will be utilized much more. And ENAM, what is this ENAM? This is something you should know. It is a government e-market. So this is the National Agriculture Market. So there is a GEM, government e-marketplace called GEM. And then you have ENAM, which is Electronic National Agriculture Market. You have this for the information flow across different mandis. What are these mandis? Mandis are these places where farmer will go, local farmer will go, bid on certain commodities. You have minimum support price, and based on that, the minimum bidding starts, and then it goes up or even more than that based on the demand supply. Now this entire inefficiency which were there is going to get integrated with Enam, so that will be removed. It was announced in the previous budget also. Now more transparency is going to be there because of the overall impact that they have seen. Right? So government is now further supporting this initiative, and because of that, Enam will get further impetus. Agriculture Infrastructure Fund, which will be created, and this will be focused mainly on cold storage facility, supply chain financing side, because there are certain things. I will share with you one simple scenario where you have e-warehouse receipt. And in India, this market is rapidly growing. What does this mean? Let's say you are a farmer and you are putting your produce in warehouse. Now, what you can do today is you can use this warehouse receipt and sell it. And by selling it, you can get money in advance. You can unlock your working capital in advance. So let's look at where we are in the growth, etc. Looking at the numbers, you will realize that from 11-12, we have come a long way, right? You can see the growth has been phenomenal. And overall growth, when you look at, depending on the electronic e-warehousing receipt, right? There are many startups which are working on this. This year is not yet complete. So of course, this numbers will change. But even if you look at COVID and after COVID, look at this e-warehouse receipt, right? It was all-time high in a way. And the main reason being everything was happening electronically. And because of that, this is getting further impetus. Now, coming back to the last part in agri infra, this is again interesting because fishing harbors are very critical for a couple of reasons. First of all, legally fishing, whenever it happens, you should support it. In India, however, there are many places where illegal fishing happens. So government is now putting these areas, dedicated areas, where you will have support and everything. Along with that, you will have certain permits, you will have certain regulations around it. And by doing this sustainably, you are going to have economic activity within this specified zones, which are fishing zones. And this again will help further in regulating this space because this was so far unregulated overall. Only in certain areas it was done. Now 5 major fishing harbor will be developed, and this will further help overall economy in that sense, right? Now let's look at the text proposals very quickly. Before that, I will see if there are few burning questions.
Yes, I think you have answered that one.
Yes, I will take a couple of quick questions which I found interesting, and
right.
I think it will be beneficial for everyone.
Yes.
So, of course, just to answer very quickly, Radhika, look, there can be a populist budget, and populist budget can be nightmare for economy during COVID. So, I can tell you two things. Either you can have populist budget where you are reducing taxation, but as I mentioned, rather than that, you should have targeted benefit. I agree that they could have done better, but of course, populist budget is even worse. It is a poison pill, and you should not have that budget during COVID time, definitely. Rahul is saying, why don't we raise interest rate for saving an FD account? Understand. So, Rahul, you need to understand how the entire interest rate cycle goes, right? If you increase the interest rate, it also increases rate of borrowing, right? Rate means whatever, let's say, people who are doing a startup, MSMEs, when they borrow, that interest rate also goes up, which means that they need to pay more. When the economy is not doing good, you need to always have interest rate which is lower. If the interest rate is higher when the economy is not doing good, then it is a spiral which will kill economy. Why? Because suddenly you will see you are not earning enough because the economy is having slowdown. You are not earning enough, but your rate of interest is going up. So you need to pay more. You are receiving less, you need to pay more. So interest rate, if you want to increase, then on the opposite side, of course, the borrowing cost also will go up. Okay, so that is the reason you can't do it. Of course, during the high growth time, by nature, this will go up. Okay, we have seen that time as well. Then, no, Enam is not related to tax flow. As I mentioned, it is just a marketplace, national agriculture market. That is what it is. Yes, budget. I'm going to cover on that crypto side much more in detail. So wait for that, because that is going to be the game changer as well. So I'm going to put more time and effort on that rather than this part. That's why you are seeing me going through that very quickly. What targeted benefit has been given by government in terms of COVID, and what should be given more? Yes, so as I mentioned, the subsidies which are given to startups, fund of funds which are created. So this, let me give you a simple example. You are given emergency credit link guarantee scheme, which means that even during tough time like COVID, when you have capacity to pay, which is much more reduced for the startup and MSME, because of government guarantee, this startups and MSMEs are getting loan from banks. That is the targeted benefit for MSME. If you are giving some wholesale tax discount, then it will not serve the purpose. Somebody who is already doing good, they don't require that. But somebody who is really suffering, so let's say edutech, fintech, were really doing good in COVID times. So if you reduce tax across the board, they will also benefit. But if you really want to provide impetus to this sectors which are not performing good, you will need to provide this sort of emergency credit link guarantee scheme, where those who are not able to get loan because of the government guarantee, they are able to get loan. So that was already given, and they've extended that by 1 more year, right? So that is again targeted benefit. Subsidies which are given to agriculture sector is again targeted benefit for that sector, which was performing really bad. So those are the things, right? Okay, let's come to the interesting part, which is on the tax proposal. People know that, okay, all these things overall is there is not much change. However, so I will just run through this once. This is something which is interesting apart from everything else. So EPF interest rate, and the last point is much more interesting rather than everything else is operational element. So EPF interest about 2.5 lakh will be taxable, but this will be applicable to employees' contribution and not to the employer. Now, earlier when you look at, and this time when you look at, the main thing that is coming out of this is that government is trying to say, okay, there were certain arbitrage opportunities that employees were doing. So because of that, it has been decided that if you are putting more than 12.5% as a PF, or you are putting more percentage than required, then on that, if the interest income is above 2.5 lakh, then you will not get the tax benefit. Earlier it was there. Now it is removed. Up to 2.5 lakh you can get it. Second thing, when you look at on the employer contribution side, because it is given by employer, there is no arbitrage that employee can do directly. Because of that, that is still exempt. Okay. Now on the affordable housing, they have extended the time, and this is again, they have, along with the time, they have extended the benefit. Okay, this is additional tax benefit of 1.5 lakh. This benefit is over and above 2 lakh, which is available under section 24B. So those who are trying to buy home, for them it is really good. And I have seen, because I'm also invested in startups which are working in this space. In last 3 months, they have done much better. Even pre-COVID level, whatever was there, it is much better than pre-COVID level. So housing sector right now is recovering very rapidly, which is good. Because believe me, construction and overall housing, for that matter, really integrates entire economy. You have low wage worker working, you have cement industries, pipes, everything, right? Steel, and there are so many industries which are interlinked with construction. And housing being part of that, it is very critical for it to recover very quickly. Now I will come to the virtual currency part. Now, before I start, I hope that you at least understand what is virtual currency and cryptocurrency, etc. If not, I will simply give you some basic background. So what happens, right? You have normal currency that you carry with you. Let's say 10 rupee note that you have, right? That 10 rupee note is a physical currency. Whatever you have in your bank account is what you call as a digital currency. but that is still not a cryptocurrency. So what is the difference between digital currency that you have in your bank account and the cryptocurrency or virtual currency? Because virtual by nature, this also is virtual, right? In bank, it is virtually stored, so it is also virtual. But as per the RBI guidelines, when you think about bank notes, etc., and under the overall currency definition, even the currency which is stored as a bank balance is part of the overall currency in circulation, and that is the reason that is one category. Now, cryptocurrency is based on distributed ledger technology, DLT. Distributed ledger technology means that you are not trusting anyone. Let's say people are playing game of cards in the train, right? So you have an option. One friend who is not playing will maintain the score after every round, and everyone will trust that friend. Okay, saying that okay, after 10th round, who won? And you can check with your friend, get the result, and you can trust your friend. But what if you can't trust your friend? In that scenario, you will need to make sure everyone will keep track of their own transactions. In this case, who won? So after every round, everybody will note down who won this round. Because of this, if somebody is trying to cheat, majority of the people will have a true record, correct record. And if somebody is trying to cheat, majority of the people will say, no, this is wrong. As per my record and as per our record specifically, I can see somebody else won and you are trying to cheat. And because of that, even by not trusting anyone, you are able to create trust. And this trust can be used in order to transfer value. By transferring value on this trust, you can create a cryptocurrency which can be utilized for transfer of value. Okay. Now, this being said, there are multiple forms of virtual assets. Whenever we talk about tokenization, so what is a tokenization? Let's look at that, right? When you go to bank for withdrawing your money, you are given a token which represents what is your number. Similar to that, when you buy lottery ticket, on that ticket a number is written. That is in a way a token that you will take with you. And if you have won the lottery, you will give that token and show that, look, I am the owner of this lottery, right? And this in the virtual digital world means simply that you have a unique identifier. You have a unique identifier, I will repeat one more time, that will allow you to associate some value to that number, which means that you can have subdivision of asset also. Let's assume in India, you have at Walkeswar, you have 5,000 square foot flat, which none of us can afford in South Mumbai. But what if you are subdividing that and tokenizing that into square feet? Every square feet is, let's say, 1 lakh rupee. Maybe many more can afford it now. And because of this tokenization, suddenly you are able to include more people. Because of tokenization, you can make it more affordable and reachable, accessible. Because of tokenization, you have better transparency. Who owns what, when it was bought, etc. etc. That entire chain of events custody, you can track and trace. So tokenization really helps you in that. Now, looking at the tokenization, this virtual currency, everything is covered under virtual assets. So if you look at the definition of this virtual assets, you will understand that it includes everything apart from whatever government will specify. Okay. Now let's take some examples, right? So let me reshare my screen. Just a moment. You will see certain examples. Give me a second. I will just sign into the platform. Okay. So I'm signing into the wallet to show you guys.
So it's on real-time basis, right, Vikram?
Yeah, this is
interesting.
Going to be,
yeah.
I will be sharing that to explain it to you how everything will work in future. So let me just open and sign into some accounts. So when you look at this is the test network on which I have 11.59 Ethereum. Now this is the wallet. This is a crypto wallet, as you see, and this is the crypto exchange, HitBTC. Right? This is the crypto exchange. This is a global exchange. Now let's look at some of the nitty-gritty. What are the issues that we have and why this budget is trying to address some issues like this, right? First of all, understand that taxing certain things will not make it legal. There is a difference between putting a tax on certain things and making certain things legal. When the Cryptocurrency Act is passed by the parliament in whatever form and fashion, then we will have clarity on whether crypto is legal in India or not. Right now, it is not illegal in India, so people can still trade in crypto. But what they are saying is that you are going to be taxed at 30% flat without having any benefit of any expenditure apart from cost of acquisition. So that is the simple outcome of this budget, where it says if you have bought some crypto at 100 rupee and if you sell it at 150 rupee, on that 50 rupee, you will pay flat 30% tax without any benefit. Second thing, because let's say this exchange is outside India. What if I transfer my money outside India, and because of that, there will not be any trace of where this money is going, because this is a cryptocurrency. You can't trace once it is gone out of the ecosystem, right? So if I put this in such wallet, which is offline wallet, for example, again, you can't trace it. And because of this, what they are saying, whenever you are crediting someone certain amount, for specified people, there is the 50,000 rupee, or for non-specified people, it is 10,000 rupee. Whenever you are doing that, you need to deduct 1% TDS. Why? Because now you have a record that this payment is made and this conversion is happening. So this again is required. But of course, those who would like to still do illegal stuff can still do it. But this budget is an attempt to allow people to get into proper white regime. You can pay taxes whenever the law comes. You can show that, look, I have paid my taxes and everything is clear and transparent. That is the main thing.
Right. That's what, Ria. That's why that 1% TDS is an attempt to legalize thing and to get money that government can see the money. Till now, the government has not been able to trace or see the money.
Correct. Rather than using word legalize, I will use to make it more transparent.
Yes.
Legalization will happen in parliament when the act is passed. There is a crypto bill also, which is getting introduced. When that bill is passed, then it will be legally allowed. But right now on the crypto side, they are saying, look, I'm going to tax you. Even if, let's say, that bill says crypto is illegal, whatever you have gained out of whatever crypto you already have will be taxed at 30%. Even after, let's say, it becoming illegal, you are found to have crypto, you will be billed at 30% income tax. Whatever penalty is there in the bill will be separate. That will be separate in case it is illegal. Right now, it is not yet illegal. Okay.
And if you can just answer Dipansh and Anshika's, which I said, I think they are reacting to that. I mean, so if you could just answer that.
Sorry, which is it in chat or Q&A?
No, it is in chat. Guys, anyways, is crypto decentralized? How can the government not trace it? And TDS will be applicable at the time of the acquisition. So
no, at the time of credit. Normally tax, as you know, is on the time of credit of something, right? When I am paying someone, TDS is deducted, right? Then isn't crypto decentralized? Yes, it is decentralized. And government can trace it when you have ecosystem player who are supposed to report it. So for example, in India, all the exchanges are supposed to have, overall, when you look at in India, they are supposed to have bank account linked. Then only you can trade, right? So in India, it is important that you need to have KYC done. You need to have a scenario where you are having a bank account linked. So amount should be debited from a bank account rather than a cash. You cannot take cash. So those things are there. But besides that, when it goes outside India or it goes into physical wallet. So what do I mean by physical wallet? Right? So there are wallets like this. Let's say Ledger Nano S. Now this wallet, as you will see, is a physical hardware format wallet. Now, once anything is in this sort of wallet, there is no way you can trace even after this, right? So TDS, when it is getting credited, you know that, okay, You are getting money in your bank account now. You are trying to liquidate whatever you had. And because of that, I can at least say that there should be at least two instances at which I can see this entire transaction starting and ending. If I'm able to identify ending at least, I can then go back and ask for the proof that, okay, when did you start? Okay, that is the main reason. Yes, Vignesh, normal business transactions, of course, if you are liable, let me give you a very simple answer. If you are liable for audit, you are supposed to deduct TDS for any transaction. So, for example, when I raise invoice, I get paid after deducting TDS. Okay, that is what it is. Now, let me give you one example because people are now confusing CBDC with Bitcoin. Okay, CBDC is not equal to Bitcoin. Let's not confuse ourselves with Bitcoin. In fact, on CBDC itself, we can have entire day. But to summarize in a simpler word, what CBDC truly is, it is a central bank digital currency. It is on blockchain, so you have certain advantages. First of all, we need to understand what are smart contracts. Smart contracts are programs which are running on blockchain. Whenever you are looking at programs which are running on blockchain in a decentralized manner, it means that now I don't need to trust any third party to provide intermediary services, because I can use smart contract to get those services through programs. Just to give an example, if I create a smart contract for rental agreement, which means that every month automatically my account should get created with the rental income, it will automatically happen without having any intermediary, because your wallet is having block with that much amount, and that amount will keep on coming out. So there is a either escrow account that you will create, which is a multi-currency or multi-party escrow account, and based on that, you will take out every month some amount of rent. Okay, so now this becomes ecosystem without any intermediary. You don't require bank, you don't require broker in between. So that is how you create decentralization. You are removing the centralized parties like middlemen. However, purpose of central bank RBI is not that. RBI is not trying to remove intermediaries. RBI is saying, can I bring more transparency? Can I bring more traceability? Today, whatever you do, it is not traceable. So RBI is trying to do two things: more transparency in the operation, reducing the cost because of that. Physical currency operations take more cost because of printing and everything. In China, it is already piloted. E-yuan was piloted. It was very successful. It can be used offline also. You don't require internet for that. So those things are there. Let's look at some of these CBDCs which are already live. Okay. Let me show you some countries with CBDC which are already live, and some of the countries which are right now working on CBDCs, including India. In India, CBDCs are going to be there with certain nuances. CBDCs normally don't give you interest. Why? Because if they give you interest, then traditional banking channel will get compromised. So CBDCs don't give you interest, but they have certain benefits, like you can use it without having an intermediary if you require you to use smart contract. Okay, that is one advantage. Legally, you can use that to do certain innovation. Another advantage I mentioned, you can trace illegal activity because everything is traceable. There is no possibility of illegal activity at all because everything is recorded from whom it started. The entire transaction chain is recorded, and it is immutable, means that nobody can hack or change anything. It is immutable because of the decentralization. It is not possible. Now, when you look at this category, there are some countries where it is thought about and cancelled, like Peru and this country. Then you have research which is going on. You can see India research is going on. It will officially get started in terms of the development from April 2022 onward. Proof of concept, you can see Australia, some of the other countries, they already have started with proof of concept. I will very quickly give you some examples of some of the African countries. Pilot which is going on, China, as you can see, They already have started with eCNY, which is yuan, and on the pilot in US, you have e-dollar, project called Jasper, which is going on. Then you have launched. There are very few countries which are already having launched thing. Nigeria is having eNaira. There is a company called bit.com, bit.com. This company provides solution for central bank like RBI to issue digital currency. This is the central bank digital currency. They power Nigerian ecosystem. Okay, so you will see this ecosystem. I will strongly recommend you guys to go through bit.com and see how they have developed this ecosystem, right? And how Nigeria has created first live system. What are the advantages? What were the challenges? You can go through this. We don't have that much time to go through in detail, but this is one example which will allow you to understand that why CBDC can be really useful. To summarize, CBDC can give you more traceability control. Direct benefit schemes can be much more effective, efficient. Because it is smart contract, you don't have anyone coming in between. It is completely corruption free. Everything is going to be traceable. And finally, you can have better control over your operations because cost of printing money is not there at all, right? So you can completely change that because UPI, just think about it, right? How UPI has changed everything, right? Now just imagine that when you are having UPI multiplier through this technology, it will further reduce reliance on paper notes. And which means that central bank itself, not the banks, central bank itself can print money in future in e-format. Okay, understand the difference. Printing money in e-format is very different than bank having some money. So that is what you need to understand. And in India, when this happens, you will have much more reduction in cost of operation from RBI perspective. Okay, let's look at some of the questions before we go into NFT and look at what are the regulations and what are the certain loopholes in the regulation, what are certain concerns in the regulation. Before we do that, let's look at some of the questions very quickly.
So if we can take the difference between e-currency versus transaction that happens through UPI.
Correct. So before I go there, I saw one question quickly. Can government claim tax even before it is legal? Of course, as I mentioned, even if something is illegal, government can tax it. Understand one thing, illegal or legal, tax has nothing to do with legality. Okay. That is very simple. You need to know that. Second thing that you mentioned about what is the difference between UPI transaction and let's say CBDC transaction. Not digital currency, I will say CBDC, which is central bank digital currency, rather than just using digital currency as a word, because you may get confused. Today we use digital currency interchangeably even for our normal currency, right, which is in e-format. Right. So UPI transaction that you are doing, it is effectively it is a bank transfer from one account to another account. It is a bank transfer. It is a bank money. Okay. Whenever RBI prints money, that is a different thing altogether. That increases the circulation of money separately. It is a physical notes, etc., that they print. Another difference is that it is not a cryptocurrency. It does not support use of blockchain smart contract. Okay, it is just the normal digital currency which you can use under your programming. But when you have digital currency using cryptography, you can use smart contract without having any intermediary. As I mentioned, you can ensure that it will get triggered. Just to give an example, let's say government A is creating some plan and that government is no longer there and government B is coming. Sometimes government B may completely remove certain things, right? But if there is a smart contract in between, then government A, whatever they have done, cannot be reversed at all. Government B, even if it comes, they can't reverse it. Whatever is part of the policy and created, as long as it is utilized and whatever contracts are done, those contracts will remain. Okay, till the time they are over, they will remain in force. Automatically, other transfers will happen. Everything will happen because it is immutable. It is on blockchain. It will continue to work. So those are the benefits of this entire thing. Those who are aware, there is something called e-rupee. That has nothing to do with digital currency. It is a voucher that you get if you are getting government benefit. Okay. E-rupee is just a QR code which you get on your SMS or on your basically in SMS you will get a code. In your smartphone you will get QR code. This QR code is nothing but a prepaid card equivalent which government is funding. Why it was launched? It was launched to make sure that direct benefit transfer. Understand this case, right? If I'm paying you in your account some amount is a direct benefit transfer, you may use it for the purpose other than the purpose for which it was given to you. Which means that if I want to give you amount for vaccination, but you may utilize it for some other purpose, I will not have any control. But with e-rupee voucher, you are able to only spend for the purpose for which it was issued. If it was issued for a certain purpose, you can only use for that purpose. You can't use it for any other purpose. So using that concept, e-rupee can also have condition. If let's say you are not supposed to transfer rupee to some countries like let's say Pakistan or in their country, then you can't transfer. Even if you want to, you can't transfer. It is programmed itself. So currency is programmable currency. Just imagine the possibility because of that, right? If the currency is programmable currency, you can have conditions within that itself. Because of that, whatever control you want to put on that can be done. Now you have disadvantages also. If government is really not trustworthy and they are not respecting your privacy, you can be traced and tracked, of course. There are disadvantages in terms of having greater control over the economy. So because of that, certain things where you have right to privacy, right to do business may not happen. So those things are there, but we need to give benefit of doubt right now, saying that it will not be used illogically or for the purpose other than benefit of the economy. That is what we are assuming. Then if I'm in loss, then also it will be taxed at 30%. No, understand what is a loss, right? Loss is nothing but sale price minus cost of acquisition. If the cost of acquisition is more than the selling price, then you are at a loss. They are clearly saying that all the other expenditure besides cost of acquisition is supposed to be disallowed. Okay, which means that if you are in loss, you will not be taxed, but you cannot set it off. You cannot say that this loss, I will set it off with some other income. No, you can't do it. Okay, that is what they have said. Okay, because just crypto can be mined and some currencies are in unlimited supply. So that is a very simple logic, right? If something is there in the circulation, who is getting the amount? Those who are holding it. Let's say you are given by airdrop. What is airdrop? You get free of cost some currency in your wallet. Like on this wallet, I can have some airdrop currencies, right? So just to give you an example, there are certain currencies which I can add, like these assets. Let's say this VIG is one asset. This TNFT is an asset which I have created. And this asset, when I create, it is an unlimited supply. I can put whatever supply I want, right? Because of this, of course, the money that which is there in the circulation is going to be with people who hold that. Those who trade it, if the value goes up, I will gain more. As simple as that. Who is getting it? Holders are getting it. There is no centralized authority at all. So there is no central person who will be benefiting from price going up. Okay. So that is that. Will value of CBDC fluctuate? No, it will fluctuate like a foreign currency scenario. Today you have INR USD pair. You have currency pair. The way it fluctuates, you will also have USD versus CBDC INR also fluctuating. But it will not fluctuate in its core value. For example, 1 rupee will be 1 rupee. Okay. It still be 1 rupee. You cannot have 1 rupee changing its value to 1.1 rupee. That will not happen. Unlike cryptocurrency, which can fluctuate in price, this will not happen. Then we have some question asking.
Yeah, on crypto can be mined and Dogecoin.
That I covered. I covered.
Okay,
that
so
I covered.
Okay, then we'll just go little up because there are many questions.
Sure.
Okay, okay. What does a person, how has bank account in Swiss bank who don't disclose a personal identity? How will government trace their crypto transaction?
Okay, so as I mentioned, those who are doing illegal stuff today also in Delhi, they
Yeah,
can
yeah,
get pen drive with private key, they can get cash, and nobody will be able to trace it. Right? So
absolutely.
that's the reason this CBDC is going to come to at least understand where the money is moving out of. Right.
Right,
So
right.
that is in future. Right now, there is no way you can trace and track once it is in cash or even in crypto, which is in hard drive. Right? You can't
Yeah.
trace those things.
So basically, if you could just sum it up, too many questions. So I think if you can just sum it up how it is going to be the next future, okay, and then we can move on to the next, questions.
Sure. So I will very quickly look at if there are some
Yeah,
good
because
questions in this.
in the chat there were
So
many.
yeah, I'm just looking at and summarizing everything together. Just a second.
Great, great.
As I mentioned, Devarshi, every crypto will be independent. Okay, it will not be like you cannot set off even within that. That is what it says. Okay, if you read the fine print, whatever is that on that you need to pay. It is not even you can't have set off even within the crypto. That is what they are saying. But if it is a fungible portfolio and you have something which is there and you are bringing it in India, those scenarios are different. They have not put any guidelines on how they will track and trace it and charge you tax on that. Because if somebody is selling on, let's say, foreign crypto exchange like HIT BTC, in that scenario, if you sell here and the money comes directly in INR terms, how do you really identify?
Yeah.
That those things are not yet clear and not yet operationalized. So they will give you guidelines, clarification that may come.
Right. And Kushagra has a question.
Yeah,
Is there any benefit in centralized indigenous Bitcoin as it breaks the most important part of cryptocurrency decentralization?
that's what I was saying. You can't compare central bank digital currency with Bitcoin because Bitcoin by nature is more energy inefficient because you need to prove certain things. So it is a proof of work, we call it. And because of that, you need to spend more electricity, etc. CBDC is not trying to replicate what Bitcoin is doing. CBDC is not equal to Bitcoin. Okay, you need to understand that. There are so many different frameworks which are based on DLT, decentralized ledger technology.
Right.
Blockchain, which is part of the Bitcoin, is one example of it. Okay, you have enterprise blockchain, by the way. Enterprise blockchain, there is no mining at all. In fact, when you look at RBI, also is allowing innovation in blockchain where you have all the banks coming together and creating trade finance platform using blockchain. You have all the banks coming together doing invoice discounting and other platform on blockchain. So those are enterprise platforms. They don't use any cryptocurrency at all. They don't use any cryptocurrency. They are just getting used as a tracing mechanism for the mutability, for making sure that you can have non-repudiation. You can't say, I have not done this
Right.
once you do certain things, right? So it is for that purpose. It is for the provenance purpose. So cryptocurrency, you don't require certain purposes. Okay. You can have blockchain without crypto. As
Okay.
simple as that.
Yeah. So one more question, which is very generic to the entire budget this year, is that what is your suggestion for the budget? Any improvement areas which you feel that we should have looked into? Just if your viewpoints, Vikram, absolutely with your
So definitely,
experience.
yeah. So definitely, much better initiatives could have been implemented, specifically in area of education. Because as you know, what happened, many students are now 1 year behind the schedule because we can learn online, but there are thousands of schools in remote areas where they
Yeah.
cannot have Zoom at all, right? They can't have
Yes.
it because you don't have infra, you don't have electricity, you can't have those things. So for
Right.
them, it is an issue. So you uh, could have done something in terms of policy making to support this players, right? Maybe you want to have a joint year, create certain policy areas where you can give discounts to such activity who are able to implement this, right? So of course it will have more cost because you are going to put more time. So the cost may be there. So that is one thing. Second, on the medical side, there are many people, look, by just not considering income, when you receive some amount from your employer, etc., is not going to help. You need to have some rule by which whatever insurance claim you have received should also be completely exempted, and that should have been much more better, right?
Right.
Third thing, finally, when you look at on the cryptocurrency and virtual currency side, because it is a new thing and it is still getting developed, what you can further do is that you can create self-regulation committee, or let's say self-regulated organization, SRO. And because of how it is getting further advanced technologies are being implemented in India also because of that. So you need to look at benefit and cost both. So rather than creating a 30% tax, they could have reduced the tax a bit, but instead of that, you could have put more penalty on not disclosing it.
Absolutely.
Understand one thing, if you reduce the tax, people are more open for disclosure. So whenever you are implementing something for the first time, it is always better to have low taxation and better incentive to disclose it.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So those things could have been done much better. There are a few more, but anyway, those are common.
Okay, so if we now let's talk about the perspective, which I come back to the basics. Okay, these are the students who will be going for the interviews and GDPR. Okay, if there was a key takeaway for this budget 2022, what would be your key 5 ups and downs of 5? If we could just sum that up, because anyways we have come to the end of the session.
Correct.
Unless and until Vikram, you have anything else to talk about?
Very quickly, I will add one thing on NFT side. So basically, on the NFT side also, that is covered. But NFTs are very different ballgame. So those who don't understand NFT, I want to just touch upon that. So as you can see, there are certain platforms. NFT is nothing but non-fungible token. It is a form of token which is non-fungible. And when you look at non-fungible token, it means that is very unique. You can't change or interchange it with another thing, right? So for example, when I say in your bank account, which 10 rupee you spend, you can't tell me that because everything is fungible.
Right.
If you spend 10 rupee, you can't say which 10 rupee it was out of 100 rupee that you had in your bank account. But if you have your bank note, okay, there is a serial number written. So you can identify that this is the bank note with this serial and it is different than the other bank note, right?
Absolutely.
So you can say it is a different note. Similar to that, you have a unique identifier, and along with that, it is non-fungible, which means that if I'm giving you certificate, once you pass your exam, if I give you certificate, that becomes non-fungible token. You can't interchange that with another token because it is unique to you, unique for that course, etc. Similar to that, there will be non-fungible assets like your invoice. Invoice is unique with all the amounts and parties and everything. So with NFT also, you have this as a taxation, which I believe is wrong, because ultimately what happens, invoice discounting when you are doing, that is still invoice. Asset tokenization, whenever you are doing, if you are considering that as virtual asset and taxing it based on that, is wrong. You need to look at underlying. Whenever underlying is something you can identify, that is not a virtual asset anymore. That is the main disconnect which I wanted to highlight. This is example marketplace for NFT. And this NFT, you can have your own marketplace. For example, I have one marketplace created here. I will just open it. Okay, so you can see my collections. This is under that. And I have put some collectible arts. This is AI generated arts for sale. Okay. Now this is created just for educational purpose, and I put 1 Bitcoin as a price. So as you can see, not 1 Bitcoin, 1 Ethereum is a price. So as you can see, these are the unique collectible items. So this is a virtual asset, truly virtual asset. And because of that, it can be taxed accordingly. This is okay. But if I'm having invoice as a virtual asset, then it should not be taxed at 30%. Okay. That's what I wanted to highlight. Now, coming back to the final point on wins and losses.
Yes.
I will give 3 rather than 5 because that will make it more impactful. Okay. Right. So top 3 wins, focused on infra, number 1. Agree impetus that they have given along with the startup ecosystem. That is MSME, Agri and Startup together is another one. And third one, Win is at least they have done something to identify that taxation part clarity is given to you, everyone, right? On the crypto side, something which is future ready now. So that is third part. Now on the fail side, they could have done much better in terms of how they have done the direct benefit transfer thing, right? They could have done much better with the incentives. So that is one. Second, on the because this is no shock, no surprise budget, they have not done something which is worse. In fact, what they have not done is worse, right?
Yes.
So rather than saying what they have done is worse because they have not done much,
it's election
what
year.
they have not done is much more worse. Right? So in this scenario, second thing, as I mentioned, the rate that they have charged on crypto could have been much lower initially to allow disclosure. If you don't allow disclosure and people are not coming out with that initial crypto, then it is not having any effect at all. Right? So that is another bad part. And third bad part is that they have not given enough and more focus on fund of fund, because while they operationalize certain things, they have not done enough justice to fund of fund, which is like fund investing into another fund and further distributing it everywhere, right? They have not done that good at all because we have seen the outcome. It is not yet utilized up to that limit. So this is my key takeaway.
I think it's been a very exhaustive but a very interesting session, because I see some of the students who joined from from the word go we started and has understood, try to be there. You know what? We need to close. Okay, this is your opinion. Fine, that's the the person is saying year's budget is nothing but old wine in a new bottle. Yeah, we can have a lot of
correct. So in fact, as I mentioned, look, sometimes doing nothing is better. Sometimes in this scenario, Robinhood budget could have killed economy, as I mentioned, because normally just before election cycle, you have many different governments have done this, right? Just before cycle of your election, you will have populist budget. And this will, specifically in COVID scenario, it would have killed us.
Absolutely.
I'm happy that they have not done that.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you, Vikram. In fact, this year's budget has been what, it should be, not rocking too many boats. Yes, as we say. And I think thank you so much, everyone, and especially Vikram, for your insight. It's been very interesting. And if I can say, if anybody wants to know more, I think Vikram, you can go to the LinkedIn profile, if I may tell so, Vikram, right?
No, definitely. More than happy to connect. You can go there, put even let's say if you want to put questions on that, you can ask questions on LinkedIn.
Okay. Yeah. So yes. So it is a very, thank you so much, Vikram. I think it was very insightful. And I think a lot of our students have gained, and you've seen the questions is just not, so it was very insightful. Your views were very, to the point, and what it is, what is the market analysis and trends talking about. Again, thank you for a very interesting and exhaustive session. Really appreciate, and thank you everyone for your time and following. If there's more questions, you can. I'm taking the liberty of saying, so please go to Vikram Pandya's LinkedIn profile. He would be happy to answer. And of course, a lot of analysis, lot of in-depth. And I wish all of you the very best for your future endeavor, whether you're in the GDPR stage, interview stage, or you want to again try to get into MBA. All the very best. Thank you so much, Vikram, for the time. It was a pleasure having you.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye. Have a fantastic evening. Yeah. Bye-bye, guys. Yeah. Bye.